Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome into this space. Let me turn John Coltrane down a little bit. We're glad you all are here this evening. My name is Anthony Smith. I'm one of the hosts here. This is Mission House. This is a community outreach center, engagement center, and we're glad you're here. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, you're family at this point, so we're glad that you're here with us for this Unite NC Town Hall. And so we're glad to have family, community gathered together to talk about some very important issues in our state. And so this quick housekeeping, I think food is put up yet? Is it already put up?
Yep.
Not ready to go. Oh, still a little food left, so if you want to knick-knack a little bit, we got food over there. Chipotle, amen. And so, housekeeping. So if you've never been in this space before, through those double doors, we have restrooms. We have two restrooms, those double doors to the immediate right. So if you have to use the restroom, we got there. We got water off to the side as well. So if you get parched, please join in. But today is very important because many of us live in communities that are suffering in many ways. They are dealing with many different injustices, dealing with the effects of inequality in our community. For those of you who live in Salisbury, you know, in the news lately, we've been talking about homelessness, right? Or bursting population of the unsheltered in our community. And so one of the things that we don't talk about enough is how we tend to focus just on our city, and the city should be held accountable, right, in many different ways. But what we don't talk about is how these forms of inequality bubble up in our community that are the product of policy made at the state level, made at the federal level. And so that's why I'm so glad tonight to have our very powerful, friendly, they family at this point, Common Cause North Carolina, our partners, state partners here. We're so glad for them to be here with us today. And they're going to come up here in just a moment to get us started. But I just want to welcome you all to this space. Have your hearts open to receive. And also I want to acknowledge any of our community leaders that are in this space. I already see one in the back, Mr. Jamel Black, president of our local Salisbury Ryan NAACP. I can see you, sir. And any other community leaders in here? I mean, all of y'all are leaders in your own right, but we have any formal leaders in the space? We have candidates that are running for local office. If you could please stand up. All right. All right. You can tell us who you are and what you're running for.
I'm Shanika Gadsden Harris. I'm running for City Council in Salisbury.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Shanika.
Stephen Joseph, I'm running for alderman in the town of East Spencer.
All right.
I'm running for regulatory alderman.
All right.
I'm Alicia Guys. I'm running for commissioner in Cleveland.
All right. So we got people that are looking to serve in a public capacity, and so we definitely wish you the best of luck in your respective races. And so we're glad again that you're all here today. Let's get our thinking caps on. Let's have our hearts open. Let's come together as community because one of the things that we need now more than ever, we need people that are going to fight for our democracy. And one of the things I was telling me and Gino and Sally were just talking, and sometimes it seems like the opposition is immutable. It seems unconquerable. It seems insurmountable. Right? But one of the things we know in the history of democracy, if you look back, going all the way back to the Greeks and Athenian democracy, there's always been movements where people banded together to rally to change a situation. And so here we are locally. The fact that you all are here today is a witness that there are people that still care about our democracy. And so we're going to talk about what it looks like to build and to make democracy healthy in North Carolina. So welcome my friends of Common Cause. Gino.
Good evening. Oh, we can do better than that. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Salisbury. How y'all doing? Sorry, it's a little toasty in here, and I'm feeling a little toasty. maybe it's a Chipotle as well, but I want to thank y'all for being here, and I want you to take a quick moment to look around, because this will be relevant in a moment, but does anybody see any of these folks you see here on the screen with you tonight? All right, I just want to start off on that note, and I want you to be well aware of it throughout the rest of the night, okay? But I see a lot of familiar and fun faces in the room, and we always like to start, because part of these town halls is to build relationships among all of us, not only in the places we go across the state, but all across the state. So I'm going to ask you to do something really quick. If you see someone near you that you have not met before, I want you to take a minute, I want you to shake a hand or fist bump, and introduce yourself. Say hi tonight. And if you already know each other, find something you don't know. Look at that. Now we'll bring it in.
Okay, well, nice to meet you. Yes, sir. Glad you could come up. I'm with the Institute for Summer Studies based in Ghana.
Say your highs and right back here.
Voting rights and democracy. Yes, sir. So, good to meet you.
I appreciate y'all indulging me. It's always nice to get to know who's in the room. Get to meet people that it seems like a lot of people are everywhere. Okay. So thank you everybody for indulging me. And I want to get started tonight. We're going to get into, as much as Pastor Smith laid out, what we are here for tonight, which is a focus on the state legislature. But in addition to y'all getting to know each other, I want to get to know a little bit more about each of you. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want you to raise your hand if you agree with the statement, or if you want what we're about to talk about. So I want everybody to raise your hand in here if you want good, affordable health care for you and your family. Oh, wow. The hands went up immediately. I don't see a single hand down. Okay. Let's try another one. Raise your hand if you want the tax dollars that you spend coming back into your community. All right. We're in agreement again. Sailor, can you believe it? Everyone. I can't believe it. I want you to raise your hand if you want, and this one might be controversial, clean air and safe water. Y'all can see where we're going. I want you to raise your hand if you want self-determination over your own body. Oh, yeah, that's right. I want you to raise your hand if you want excellent public schools for your kids. Amen.
We're getting tired.
That's right. Absolutely. But apparently our schools are fully funded, aren't they? No, that's just a joke. We'll get into it. And finally, I want you to raise your hand if you want a genuine voice in your government and a representative who gives a damn about you. All right. So look at that. There is more that we agree on than we disagree on. There's more that unites us than divides us. And so why am I asking you these questions? Well, because about 200 some days ago, in January of 2023, the North Carolina General Assembly gavelled into what is known as the long legislative session. How many of you have heard about something that has happened in the General Assembly this year? How many of you have an opinion about something that happened in the General Assembly this year? Well, we're here tonight because we're going to hopefully hear your opinions on those issues. And if we all agree, I mean, you all saw it. We all agree, and I'll tell you this is the 8th town hall we've done. We've been in Mint Hill, we've been in Carthage, we've been in High Point, Fayetteville, Wentworth, Gibsonville. We were in Wilmington on Monday. We're here with you tonight in Salisbury. And every single time, every single place we've gone to, everyone's raised their hand unanimously on every single question. So, if that is true, if we all agree on those basic things, has that been the agenda of the General Assembly in Raleigh? Well, let's talk about what their agenda has been. Here's some of the bills that have passed and will directly impact not only the lives of everybody in this room, but the lives of people that we love. Bills like HB 40, and I want you to raise your hand if you've heard of these bills. HB 40, how many of y'all heard about it? This is a bill that could put anyone here at risk of a felony charge just for showing up to a peaceful protest if the district attorney or the police determine that it's a riot, based off their definition of what a riot is. That's HB 40. There's also a bill known as SB 749. How many of you have heard of this one? SB 749 is an elections bill that just passed last night, and among other things, reduces the period in which your mail-in ballot can be accepted in a way that, if it had been in place in 2020, would have meant that 11,000 plus valid ballots would have been tossed out. Who can tell me what the race for Chief Justice of the North Carolina State Supreme Court was decided on in 2020 between Paul Newby and Sherry Beasley? 400. So in a state where one of the most important positions can be divided by 400 votes, this bill that just passed last night, is heading to the governor's desk, would have tossed out 11,000 some valid ballots in 2020. And not only that, puts in place a number of policies like signature verification. It stretches the budgets of already stretched thin county board of elections. In Rowan County, that 2020 got an influx of pens, single-use pens, during the COVID pandemic, would now be banned from getting those same resources from anybody else under this legislation that was passed. So those are just the elections bills. I won't even talk to you about Senate Bill 749, but another bill that seeks to gum up the works of our election administration so that really all power gets thrown to the General Assembly to make the basic decisions over whose ballots count and how our elections are run, the early voting plans we have in our counties. That's another bill that hasn't passed yet, but is still top of mind for the state Senate. And we even talk about the poll observers. Another part of that bill, Senate Bill 747, gives even more credence to those in the state who believe that the 2020 election was stolen. And most importantly, gives their partisan poll observers the ability to roam around the polling site even more than they had before. Saylor and I are about 5 feet away from each other right now. And under this legislation, a partisan poll observer could be about this close to you as you cast your ballot. How many of you, raise your hand, want someone that close to you as you cast their ballot? That's right. That is also part of Senate Bill 747 that was passed last night. Also, I know of concern to many of you is just yesterday, the state legislature overrode the vetoes of 4 bills that primarily target LGBTQ plus youth and children in this state. And I want to take a moment to let that sit in, because it's some of the worst and most damaging legislation since HB 2, the bathroom bill, which of course was eventually at least partially repealed. And now this is law in North Carolina. That's not even to talk about what happened a few months ago. SB 20, when a 12-week abortion ban was passed in North Carolina. As you can see, folks, they always bring me to liven up the crowd. I'm always the downer at the parties. There's a number of bills, but I know one that many of you raise your hand for, public schools. There's currently a bill being proposed that would siphon, if passed, up to $200 million each year from our public schools and direct them to charter schools. How many of you have heard about this bill? Absolutely. And just yesterday, in that same session of the General Assembly, they passed another bill that loosens oversight of charter schools. So we are diverting hundreds of millions of dollars to schools that have less oversight and don't have to accept all of our students, unlike our public schools. Now, there's also a budget being debated. How many of you have heard about the budget stalemate? Currently, we don't have a budget in the state of North Carolina. Well, they'll say we keep doing what we did last year, but obviously costs go up each year. Schools all across the state, public universities, community colleges don't know about the kind of raises they can give, the hiring they can do. And they're at a stalemate over the budget because out of nowhere at the last second, the leader of the Senate, Phil Berger, wants to put a couple casinos in different places all around the state as people wait for higher raises for teachers. And not only that, in this budget, the state Senate is proposing it cuts taxes for the richest 20% of North Carolinians to the tune of depriving $7.6 billion in revenue each year. Now, all of you raised your hand about wanting your tax dollars to be reinvested in your community. We talked a little bit about homelessness from Pastor Smith, part of that is the lack of access to good, sustainable, healthy food. So I want to ask you, how much do you think it costs each year to end hunger in North Carolina? Take a wild guess. So I heard a 7. 7 point. Good guess. Anybody else want to guess how much it might cost? Okay, I'll tell you the answer. So remember, budget, proposed plan from the Senate cuts us of $7.6 billion in revenue to primarily go into the hands of the richest 20%. According to the Budget and Tax Center, it would cost $770 million each year to end hunger, to make sure no one goes hungry in the state. $7.6 billion in lost revenue, $770 million that it would take to end hunger. Does that sound like tax dollars being invested back in your community? Absolutely not. And that budget we might not have until October at this point. There is a lot more that we could discuss. There's many more pieces of legislation. I'm also now losing my spot because it's all just bills that I have written here, and now I've lost my target. So that is just a sampling of the legislation we've had to contend with in North Carolina this year. But it's enough from me, because primarily what we are here for tonight is to hear from each of you. Not only the questions you have about these bills, but we also want to hear your opinions on them and your perspectives on them. Some of you signed up to speak as you came in. We're going to be going to a portion of this event right after some of our partners who are here speak a little bit, and we'll be asking you all to come up and speak. But, and actually I'm losing my place here a little bit, but we want to kind of set the tone for how the rest of this event is going to go. So in a few minutes here, we'll have partners who are involved kind of come up and tell you a little bit about themselves and the issues that they're fighting on, many of the issues you've heard about here. But then we want to hear from each of you. And of course, as we talked about at the beginning here, none of these fine folks are here to see you. And if you haven't figured out yet, these are the people who represent you in the state legislature. But that's okay, because we're all here.
Amen.
Amen. And just like in every single other place in the state, we're going to do what everyone has done before you. And we are still going to make our testimony and our perspective heard. Because we all need to know in this room about the things that unite us more than divide us, but we also want to go to all the other places here in North Carolina and remind people from Salisbury to Silva, in Robeson County, in Wilmington, in Dare County, that there are North Carolinians all across this state who have similar experiences and similar stories to tell and are part of what we call this growing movement to unite North Carolina. I know it sounds a little corny, but that's part of what we are here to do tonight. And not only do we want to be able to share what you have to say, we're also going to be sharing what you say here tonight every which way to Sunday to these folks, whether we have to do it by email or phone or social media or carrier pigeon, or as part of our plan, delivering it ourselves in Raleigh in a couple months. Y'all ready for that? I won't say much more now, but trust, they're going to hear from you one way or another, even if they couldn't be bothered to show up tonight. So, as we get into this, a couple of ground rules for how we do this kind of town hall portion of the event to hear from you. We are nonpartisan. We want to focus on the issues. We want to focus on people. We want to focus on how those issues impact people. So we ask, of course, not to stay away from facts. I mean, you can say what the facts are, but we also want to focus primarily on those issues. And if you are a local candidate who's here tonight, we very much welcome you to speak up and talk about the issues that matter to you while you're running. Of course, this isn't necessarily a space for stump speeches or that kind of partisan angle to things, but we do want you to speak tonight and tell us about the issues that matter to you. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak when we get to that portion. Where's Tyler Day? So, you're going to see this fine young gentleman in the back. He's got a little sign. Show him Tyler. I will tell you to please finish when the time is right. And we ask that you keep to that because we want as many people who have something to say, and I've got a sense that many of you have got something to get off of your chest, that we allow for as many people to do that as possible so we can all learn from each other and keep this event going. All right. Sailor, did I miss anything? There you go. The last thing we'll say is that if you do feel that you want to speak and you want to say something, but you're not quite sure how to do so, or not quite sure what you want to say, there's two questions that we try to prompt folks with and keep in mind. The first one is, what do you want those state lawmakers who couldn't be bothered to show tonight, what do you want them to know about what you feel about these issues? That's one question to consider. The second also is, what do you want the future of North Carolina to look like? Because we know that we're in a moment in which many of the hard-won rights and freedoms, the resources we need, are being stripped from us from a General Assembly that's entrenched against democracy and against the people. But we want to keep our eye on what we think the future of North Carolina should be. And we want to hear what you think about that. So those are the two questions that we're prompting y'all with. And we're going to get started right into that. So I'm going to invite up, before we get started, because we always like to give a little buffer, because folks get real hesitant before they start speaking. No one wants to be the first to speak. We invite up some of the organizations who are with us tonight to tell you a little bit about the issues they fight on. So all of y'all, if y'all want to come up, we got Red, White, and Blue, we got Planned Parenthood, we got the Institute for Southern Studies. We're going to give these folks a few minutes to tell you about themselves. So come on up to the front. It doesn't matter. That includes you. Come on up. We're going to give each of these folks a few minutes to just tell you about what I've just talked to you about here, the issues they're working on in the General Assembly, and some of the resources that they provided on the tables for you here tonight. Sound okay? All right, let's get started, y'all. Let's start first with
Hi all, my name is Kim Biondi and I am an organizer in Cabarrus County and Charmac and Union and Gaston and Rowan with Red, Wine, and Blue. We are a woman-led 501c3c4 nonpartisan organization, and we are devoted to energizing, inspiring, and amplifying the voices of suburban women all across the state and all across the nation. We have over 500,000 in our national group and 20,000 women in the state of North Carolina. We educate the women in our network that they do have political power. We train them how to use their voice, and we train them to educate themselves and their friends and neighbors and family on common sense candidates who are in favor of bodily autonomy and reproductive rights, who fight for our public schools, who embrace common sense gun safety regulations, who do not want to use our children as political pawns. We know how important our families, our communities, and our people are in North Carolina, and we value them as a resource. The women in our network learn to use their voice and their political power to enact real change on a local level, a state level, and we hope on a national level soon too. We use digital media to fight disinformation and misinformation, and we can be found on all social media platforms. We train our women to use friend-to-friend or relational organizing to talk to their friends and their family and their colleagues and get those people to the polls to elect the kind of down-ballot candidates we need to bring about real progressive change. We have paid staff in 5 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, and most lately, Virginia. Some of the issues we fight against include abortion bans, anti-CRT bills against Black history, discrimination against our LGBTQ community, anti-gun safety bills, and any efforts to destroy or weaken our public schools. The women in our network, we are fierce and we are determined. Collectively, we call ourselves troublemakers, after the great speech by John Lewis. Stop by our table to learn more about the power that you have right now, or by visiting our website, redwine.blue. Thank you so much.
So y'all stay busy. All right, next we'll go to Anaya Vines with Black Voters Matter.
Thank you. How y'all doing? Feel like I got our fans heated in here. But no, thank you so much for having me up here to speak. As Gina said, my name is Anaya Vines. I am the Piedmont Regional Organizer for Black Voters Matter. Even though we are Black Voters Matter, we don't just do voting work. We are trying to build Black power in a nationwide, hopefully, eventually a global wide way. So what we are trying to do tonight is trying to help you guys make your voices heard. I really want to take a moment to applaud Common Cause for all the work that they've been doing. If we could give them a round of applause. They have been in about 8 places so far. So much work has been put in, as well as the partners. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm really happy just to be a part of this, and I really do just encourage you guys, because it really isn't about our organization or really any individual organization. Tonight is about the people, right? Tonight is about the voices of you guys. Tonight is about the candidates that failed to show up to hear what the people have to say. So at the end of the day, make sure that your voices are heard this evening, because that means that candidates can't say that someone didn't say anything. They had the opportunity to hear you guys, they just didn't take it because they don't think it's important enough. So make sure that your voices are heard so that we have some, ammunition to give them when October comes, whatever, Common Cause is in the works of doing. I'm excited to hear about it. But make sure that your voices are heard, because it's our responsibility to make sure that they're held accountable regardless of anything else. Because if they are abusing their power, if they're put in positions of power and they are not representing the people, then it's our responsibility to take them out of those positions of power or hold them accountable to make sure that they're representing us, which is the people. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Next up, we have Ben Barber from the Institute for Southern Studies.
Hello. All that heat is just means y'all's fired up, so that's good to see. So as Gino said, my name is Ben Barber. I'm with the Institute for Southern Studies, where we believe that a healthy democracy is needed for a healthy state. And here in North Carolina, we really have been seeing a crisis of democracy, a crisis related to the voting rights. We saw this, this devastating direction that the legislature took more recently with some of the legislation that recently was approved. At a time when the questions of democracy, at a time when the questions of political equality, at a time when the questions of voting rights have reached an inflection point, we really are going down the wrong road when we see efforts to undermine access, to undermine participation, to undermine the ability to freely cast a ballot. So in this moment, we should be talking about expanding these programs, not cutting them. We are growing the state in terms of diversity, and so that the policies we hope to embrace in our democracy should reflect that. And so, while we stand here tonight to fight, to stand against the legislation in terms of defense, we also must start to think creatively about how we want to build our democracy here in the state. I love the questions that Gino and Sailor put on the screen. What do you want the future of North Carolina to look like? And that directly ties in to what do you want the future of the democracy here in the state to look like. So more recently, earlier this year, I'm going to show you all this report real quick. The Institute for Southern Studies published this report along with Common Cause and a host of other organizations that really offer a collection of progressive, bipartisan policy solutions to really deal with the problems of voting rights and democracy here in the state, related to the expanding access, expanding the ability to cast a ballot more freely, expanding, the overturning disenfranchisement of felonies rights. So what we really want in this moment is to really embrace those type of policies instead of going down this wrong direction. Because democracy really comes from the people. It comes not from the top down, but it really comes from the bottom up. So we really want to embrace that philosophy here tonight. And I'm glad to be in conversation with you all. And thanks to Gino and everybody at Common Cause.
Hi y'all, my name is Kim Alexander. I'm the community organizer for Western North Carolina with Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, which is the regional affiliate of Planned Parenthood. At Planned Parenthood, our mission is to provide reproductive and sexual health care that's vital to our community's well-being. And unfortunately, a little over a year ago, as I'm sure y'all know, the Supreme Court overturned Roe with the Dobbs decision. So without that federal level of protection, we knew that the North Carolina General Assembly was going to chip away even further at our bodily autonomy. And they did just that, y'all. They didn't just pass a 12-week abortion ban. We're calling it a monster abortion ban because it severely limits access to this vital service in many ways. So since the last town hall I was at, I've had to change my speech a little bit because last night the General Assembly passed a bill that would ban gender-affirming care for folks under the age of 18. So this is just another attack on folks who deserve bodily autonomy, right? And while the General Assembly is passing all of these bills, I do want to note that they know they are deeply unpopular policies. And we know this because the first legislative day this session after the North Carolina Supreme Court overturned its own precedents on voting rights, such as voter ID laws and gerrymandering, right? The first legislative day after they overturned those voting rights laws, they introduced the abortion ban bill. That's not a coincidence, y'all. They know it's deeply unpopular, and they're scared. They're scared they're going to get voted out if they progress with these bills. So if you are as enraged as we are, check out our table and sign up to join us at Planned Parenthood, because the folks of North Carolina deserve bodily autonomy. They deserve access to abortion and gender-affirming health care services.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for all the folks who spoke. And it's almost y'all's turn. So I hope you're ready. We've got one other person, last but certainly not least, who made this possible tonight along with Pastor Smith, Emily Perry from Rowan Concerned Citizens.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. We were trying to get the word out from the Y and the pool, my pool people over here. And so it's been a long time coming. We've been meeting now about 9-10 years. We've had workshops here on gerrymandering, but what's become so interesting this year is that we have a town hall meeting in February, and the number one concern was housing. Number two concern, believe it or not, was regarding restoration of license. We had that last Thursday, and then as a result of that one, then people were saying we need to do something about expungement. So we want to hear the pulse of the community. What does the community need? But at the same time, encouraging people to register and vote. We register 365 days a year, don't we, Roger? Yeah, Roger's my sidekick. And we, as I said, we cannot do this without the community. So please, please, if we can partner with you and figure out a way, especially get our young people involved. We've got to get them out to vote because they don't understand, and we need to break it down to them. So if you have young people or know of young people, let's do what we can to try to educate them. So that's a little bit about Growing Concerned Citizens, but as I say, we work 365 days a year.
All right, now it's your turn. You ready? So a couple ground rules, and then we'll start asking folks to raise hands and start hearing from the crowd here tonight about what y'all feel. Remember though, 2 minutes to speak. Tyler Day will be roaming around. We'll pass the microphone to you, so please don't feel like you've got to come up to the front. We'll bring it to you. That this is a nonpartisan space, and that you've got the 2 minutes, and I think that is just about all I want to make sure to say, unless there's an
I just wanted to point out what was in your chairs, friends. Right. If time were to run out for some reason, because we go until midnight, but Pastor Smith goes until 11.
We'd keep you here all night if we could.
Please do write down what questions you are willing to share on these note cards. And we do that because we are compiling the questions. And as Gino said, we're going to put them in the magic mystery box.
The gray magic box of mystery. So we'll be coming around, and if you've got questions on those index cards, this is where they go.
We will not make it mysterious to our lawmakers' friends. We will make it very clear to them what you said tonight, not only by video, by carrier pigeon, by email, and by phone, but we will be hand-delivering your questions and your comments to your lawmakers who refuse to show up and listen to your voices tonight. We would also encourage you, you have other postcards here, and some of them are specifically for the great state of Rowan. We would like to hear from you, whether you get up here or not, and say it about what you would want North Carolina to look like. We are putting together a mosaic of the entire state, and we want Rowan's voices to be in that mosaic to show what you, it's not just about what we don't want, friends, right? Amen? We cannot get, as Emily said, young people to the ballot if we constantly say what's wrong. We got to say a little bit more about what we want, and this is your opportunity to do so. We want Rowan front and center in that beautiful mosaic of North Kakalaki when we show off what we did together to unite and see. So please take your pencil, take your pen, and take a moment to fill out these cards and put your questions, your comments for your lawmakers, and what you want to see for the great state of North Carolina here on these cards. Thank you so much.
And you can do it anytime before you leave. But without further ado, because again, we can't keep you here all night, which intrepid soul would like to get up and talk about how they're feeling about the General Assembly first?
I'll be the mic person, y'all.
Don't be shy now.
I'll say something.
Thank you. And please introduce yourself as well when you get.
My name is Debbie Hubbard, and although I feel that I'm very civic-minded, I'm sort of a low-level person in all of this who's now beginning to be really interested. Though I was interested 8 years ago as well. And I listened to all of these things that our friend up here was talking about, the bills and the numbers and all of that, and they all concern me. The reducing access to the ballot, the poll observers, the ban on gender affirming care, the abortion bill, all of those things. But the thing that really, really concerns me is the felony charge for the peaceful protest. Because if we have no recourse, if we take all of these things to our legislatures here in North Carolina, federally, wherever, and we get no response, the only option that we might have eventually is to take to the streets, and I don't think that is something that's completely out of the question. I really see that as something that might happen down the road. It's a fearful thing what's going on here in our state and throughout the country. And to think that, what are the standards? That's my question. Are there standards set to what is a peaceful protest? What is a riot? Who gets to decide those things? How is that going to be laid out? And I recommend a book as well. It's by Timothy Miller. I think his name is Timothy Snyder. It's called On Tyranny. And it's something that everyone should read, because I'm really afraid that we are going there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to just answer briefly, and I believe you will be next, right over there. Yeah, and just to say, it's currently being challenged in court, HB 40, the anti-riot bill, and part of the big concern is that it relies on a very vague statute about what is considered a riot, and it leaves most of the authority and the discretion up to the district attorney and the police in the moment. And that is part, to your question, there are very little standards. And that is part of why some civil rights groups have sued over the law, because the district attorney, the police chief shouldn't just be able to determine whatever it is whenever they want to. So I appreciate that question. Thank you for speaking here.
Hey, I'm Karen Puckett. I'm a retired teacher. I just retired. Yay. And I'm very concerned about the public schools. I went with some NCAE folks from the local, and we spoke with Carl Ford's wife, because she's his assistant, and he explained about the LGBT thing where if a child wants to be called a different name from their gender, that we're supposed to call the parents. almost like you would report a sexual misconduct or something, and how that places some unfair responsibility on teachers. And she took notes and was very polite and smiled and acted interested. They did it anyway. So what that told me, going to see them is useless. They are set in. They are set in. They're taken to the streets, perhaps, and people will wake up and vote. Maybe that'll do something, but at this point, it feels almost futile until people will wake up and vote and see what's going on. And we have this a populace that is low information. They don't know what's going on. No clue. So it feels, when they finally have to feel it, then maybe they'll do something about it. So it's just it feels defeating. That doesn't mean I'm defeated. I'm not stopping.
I don't believe you are. That's why you're here. That's why 60-some of you are here. Thank you for saying that. And we've got 60-some people right here in Salisbury who are ready to do just that. The reason we're here on the road with you is so that a lot of the folks who don't know about what's happened in the General Assembly can know. And we're going to be starting right around with everyone who's here tonight, so I appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you sharing that experience, too, because not many people get a chance to meet them in person. Go ahead, thanks, sir.
Yeah, Jeff Malloy, I think most of you would know I'm the County Democrat Chair. Following up on what Karen has just said, we need candidates to run for these offices. We have a potential candidate to run against Carl Ford, Angela Morgan. Again, give her a hand. She's not here, but she's listening in. Her man's over there with the phone. But we do not have a candidate at this point to challenge Harry Warren. If you are willing to take on that task as a resource person, and as well as a bunch of other friends, we're willing to stand with you, stand behind you, work with you to get somebody on the ballot to run against Harry Warren. We've had enough of this. He promised us when he ran the first time it would be only 2 terms. Well, this is beyond that. And we really need somebody good, and we will work with you to see to it that we get beyond just complaining. Let's put our feet on the ground, our fingers on those doorbells, and get somebody else elected to District 76. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first common cause is not supporter of opposed any candidate, but I appreciate you saying that, sir. Who would like to speak next?
Don't be shy.
I knew it. Thank you.
There you go.
Well, I think we have to say we need someone to run against Harry Warren and Carl Ford because they won't talk to us. They won't show up. And perhaps what I want to see in Rowan County is I want to see elected officials who will actually talk to their constituents instead of having meetings at the fish house or at the barbecue house with the people that they know will vote for them. The other thing that really concerns me is why they think that they need to pay people to not send their kids to public schools. Because that's what a voucher is. They are paying people to not go to public schools. They are telling us that they are broken. They are not standing up for our teachers who are showing up every day. And then they're saying, and we'll pay you if you won't go. So that's one of my biggest concerns, and I have so many.
Thank you, Pam. Who would like to keep us going? Yeah. And now you're going to get a workout tonight.
My teeth is, I'm Ellen Patchett, and I'm a local agitator
Troublemaker.
I am deeply concerned about the use of language and the way it's been weaponized to our nation, in our nation. My daughter was desperately ill with COVID. In both Rowan and Cabarrus, the waiting time at an emergency healthcare facility was 5 hours. If you and your medical professionals are telling people that we're going for socialized medicine and you are using language that we are going into a socialized state, we all need to be educated into how to combat that, because we are losing our health care daily with monopolies. They have yet to enforce the Sherman Antitrust Act. Biden is just starting to do that. They've started Citizens United and ended the Fairness Doctrine, and that has hindered us more than almost anything. So I think just being educated, watching the use of language, and having the courage to stand up to people that use this language. You're not very popular, you're not going to be popular, but you have to stand up to people who use language that they don't understand.
Thank you. For the history major at Harvard, we start talking about trust busting, and there's no hard rule to leave, so thank you. And just to your point really quick before we go to the next person, one of the big things, speaking of healthcare, that is held up by the budget stalemate is Medicaid expansion. How many of you have heard about Medicaid expansion? Currently, tens of thousands of people who couldn't be insured, and tens of thousands of people who were left off or rolled off the rolls because Medicaid haven't been expanded, live in this state without health care insurance, and that means people are dying. And we're whipping up hysteria over something known as socialized medicine when the real people dying from the lack of health care access right now.
And if you're lucky to have health insurance and you have a $5,000 deductible,
yeah.
If you go in for a job interview, you better get that tacked on to the back end because you're going to have $5,000 that you have to pay before you can even have health care. So they've got it wrapped up.
That's right. Thank you. Who'd like to speak next? Yeah, come through.
Then I can see everybody. All right.
Come on through.
So, with the healthcare thing, good segue. I'm a father to a toddler, husband to a partner, political supporter. I volunteer in my community. I'm also a trans man. So, when I came out the first time, I was in high school, the age of these kids that are being affected. I had almost no support. In the 90s and the 2000s, there was nothing. But in the face of these anti-trans bills, I've got to say, I don't know how any of us would have made it out. If it looked like that, a lot of us wouldn't. My child deserves better. I deserve better. My friends and now absent friends, remember that no support thing? They deserve better too. And our trans kids, nieces, nephews, everything in between, they all deserve better. We're all citizens. Why are we attacking our most vulnerable? Where does it end? We shouldn't be making anyone into second-class citizens. Anyone. And I'd like to urge our representation to actually become representative of the rainbow of people that are in this state. Because it takes all sorts. We've got everybody here. Sorry, almost done. How much further does this have to go before we realize that by harming the people that are the most vulnerable, the least of us, we're losing more than just trans kids. We're losing their families. We're losing the people that love them. How far until my family and others like me are threatened too? We love this state. We don't want to go anywhere. We don't want to have to leave. We shouldn't have to. This slate of bills that got overridden last night, it makes the least of us into effectively that. Second-class citizens. No sports, no vital, life-saving health care. We're not even allowed to talk about who we are without our teachers or parents telling us it's okay. That's not all right. I'm afraid this won't stop there. It's time to teach kindness, not hate.
As someone told us in Fayetteville, if the state's going to force people to have kids, they better damn well take care of them.
Amen.
And so, I appreciate you speaking. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Foster care system.
You want to talk about it?
I had a bad one.
That's totally
You know, I don't know how common it is for, in Rowan County that, people know the number of people, the number of children who are in our foster care system that do not have a place to be. They're out of county, they're being shipped wherever we can find an opening. I am not DSS, I am a guardian ad litem. So I represent kids who are in the foster care system. We don't have enough guardian ad litems. We don't have treatment for families. There's no treatment in this county. There's no place for folks to go to get help so that they can reunite with their families in terms of addiction or poverty or whatever their issue is. And it's really sad. It's really sad. Yes.
Thank you. Not like I'm making me weep. Who would like to? I'm serious. Who would like to speak next?
I would like to say that she should contact her governor, Josh Stein, who's running for governor. He just won this case against Oxycontin people, I think, in the Supreme Court. But, you know, he's the person that we need to know, where's all this money gonna go? We need treatment. But as I understand it, some of the issue with that is, at the county level, the money has to be applied for. And if you don't have people at the county level who are willing to do that, then you miss out on those dollars.
So Rowan County has been awarded millions of dollars. So they have those monies now. So the discussion that needs to happen is people in our community, we need to show up to county commissioner meetings. I love it when y'all come to the city. We need y'all to go to county commissioner meetings too. Because they hold the purse strings not only on the opioid settlement monies, they also have the purse strings on our school, right? They also have the purse string on social services. They also got a direct line to our state representatives and our senator, right? So we need to build up an army of people to let their voices be heard. I don't know if you heard when they had the meeting around the budget and some of the comments that were made about teachers. And teachers should just suck it up, do it because they love it, right? And stop begging for money.
That's what Craig Pierce said. County Commissioner Craig Pierce.
Right. I was trying not to say a name.
I'll say it.
But what I'm saying is this is the mentality. But I'm like my sister here who said, it was Karen Puckett, when she said, I don't know if people really feel it yet. Right? And it's that I'm waiting for people to really feel it. Right? Because a lot of times we ask ourselves, why come the people aren't showing up? And unfortunately, I think that we're in a moment when people, unfortunately, until people really, and the thing is, people are feeling it. They're feeling it. They're struggling. These people who are trying to find, I talked to a social worker the other day, and she was telling me how they have kids in the office. They have babies with them in the office where they're working their caseloads because they have nowhere else to send the children. They're in the office environment with social workers working. Right? But we got millions of dollars to build an agricultural center down the street. Right? Where the citizens at? Where y'all at? Let's get mobilized. These people got money. They got resources. Our people need the resources. They need the services. And there are resources that are here now that can be mobilized and allocated to this community.
Do we feel it in this room? Do we feel it in this room? Do you want to speak next? Good. Yes, that's totally fine.
I see the sister over here with a union t-shirt on. And I would like to have the, all public employees should have the right to collectively bargain with their employers. That means state, county, and municipal employees. Our teachers do not have the same rights as the teachers in my home state, Minnesota, to have a collective bargaining agreement so they can bargain for more wages and better working conditions. About a quarter of the people working in this state are public employees. If they don't have that right, it weakens all of our systems that provide for working people, our education, our health care, our voting rights, because when people are organized, they are organized not just in the workplace, but also in the public place. And they will go to the polls and they will vote for the things that help their constituents.
Amen. Amen. And I'll come to you just in a second. In case there's anybody who hasn't spoken yet who wants to speak, and I'll come right back to you. Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Erica Yost. I spent my summer organizing for NCAE in Guilford County, and I actually just resigned from being a teacher last month. It's two-part because of the child care costs, and there's a lack of affordable child care, but even in Rowan County moving back, I have my twins on 4 different waiting lists for daycares and preschools. And so there is women, because of COVID, were pushed back 30 years in the workforce. There's no child care. So our state needs to do a tri-care model and take on some of that responsibility. And even our school board can help shoulder some of that burden. I think the county commissioners just denied, the school board went to them and asked for, Karen, I think was it
10% of your salary as a supplement.
As a supplement, and they said no. So we can't retain teachers, we can't retain women if we don't have affordable and available childcare. And our school systems in North Carolina are collapsing, just to keep it real with y'all. They are collapsing. And going around talking to school staff, not just teachers, but school staff all summer, it's especially the classified staff. Hearing their stories will really break your heart. They're living on like pennies. You know, we think as teachers, like, we're struggling. Our classified staff, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our front office people, the people we can't function, you know, we can't teach our kids if they don't get our kids to school and feed them lunch. They are struggling as well. So, and it's not that the money's not there. The Leandro Act, you know, our legislature has refused to fund that, and even within our county, the county commissioners won't take on the burden of that. So, if you are interested in getting involved in making our public education better, you can join as a community ally with the NCAE, and you can do that online. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, and just in case, we'll come right back to you, sir, in case anybody else who hasn't had a chance to speak wants to speak next. Oh, yes, sorry, didn't see you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna try basically everything, all of these boxes I wanted to check. So I'm just gonna try to answer that question with those issues. I want, in North Carolina, I want voting rights protected. I want affordable health care for all in the United States. I want equity for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I want the legislators who represent North Carolina to represent all of us. I want women and LGBTQ people to have bodily autonomy. I want fully funded, excellent schools with respected and well-paid teachers and staff. I want peace and a reduction in gun violence. I want all of these things, and I think that we as citizens have the right to have our voices listened to. I'm tired of these legislators doing whatever they want and doing doing whatever the people who are padding their pockets have them do.
And speaking of money, just to go on the public schools piece now, I mean, how many of you are familiar with Leandro, which mentioned right at the front? So not everybody. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about what Leandro is, or I'm happy to do it as well? So Leandro, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of these points, but we talked about, right, a state budget is going to deprive us of billions of resources. We talked about a bill that's going to siphon $200 million each year from our schools, and this is on top of a 30-year-old court case known as Leandro, led by parents from some of the poorest counties in this state who demanded that every child that this state live up to its constitution that says that every child deserves a sound basic education in this state. That is in the words of North Carolina's Constitution. It is a right of all of us. And for 30 years, no matter who was in control of the legislature, and that's important, Democrats and Republicans, they have held up what is now $1.7 billion in funding for our schools. Just want that to say, $1.7 billion for children and for teachers. I mean, it makes you feel a little, makes it not, it's not about it, but it makes you feel like you want to punch something when you see that. So that is what is being held up. That is what Leandro is all about. And with the new state Supreme Court, and I'll bring it to you right here in a moment, with the new state Supreme Court that is now led by the son of the most powerful lawmaker in the Senate, we now have a state Supreme Court in this state in lockstep with what a legislature wants, and that $1.7 billion is still held hostage. So, come on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that the North Carolina Supreme Court did find that the legislature was out of compliance and said that they had to pay. And then when the Supreme Court changed members, they denied it again. So it did pass once, so we did win, and then we, knock down and get up again. Pastors for North Carolina Children is a faith-based group that focuses on Leandro, on organizing for Leandro, and you don't have to have necessarily a faith connection to be part of it. It's pastorsfornorthcarolinachildren.org. They will help you organize your community. They will definitely help you organize your church to work on Leandro. That's all they do.
All right, folks. We are getting the short rows now, my friends, because again, we're not keeping you here all night, but we got a couple folks, I got you two that will come to just before we make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak that hasn't. So this is now the time that you would like to say something about what you've heard tonight. It's your opportunity. Yes. Oh, no.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
My name is Shania. My biggest concern for Salisbury, North Carolina is the homeless population. I think it was around 240 people that are experiencing homelessness in Salisbury. For someone who just moved back here about a year ago, it's kind of a slap in the face to them when we're building these new apartments that are way too much money for rent. Like it was stated before, the mall that's down the street being converted into something that we really don't need. I think it was about 2 months ago, the city of Salisbury, the police department gave, there was this area where people set up their tents. They gave them only a 3-day notice to move their belongings, which is it doesn't make sense because it's where would they go? Where would they put their stuff? A lot of them had, really personal belongings to them that really meant a lot to them, that were thrown away, although the police department said that, they didn't throw away things that they wanted to keep, which we know that is not true. I think another thing because I'm thinking of the question, what do you want for the future of North Carolina, is just investing back into the communities, into the people.
when people become homeless, it's not just, they want to, what a lot of people would try to say. This pandemic really, I think, really opened people's eyes to how much they're close to experiencing homelessness. I don't know about y'all, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and if just one check, I can be on the street. And I think, like a lot of people said, we won't really care until we feel it, but I think we're also feeling that. Teachers are feeling that, organizers are feeling that, any job field, we're feeling it. We're exhausted. I work in mental health care. I'm actually surprised I'm here tonight. I have the free time. So I think another thing is just communal work. I know going to legislators and things like that, but I think like if we also work together within our communities and strengthen ourselves, that can also help a lot as well. I saw the sign. Sorry.
Thank you. Round of applause.
So the NAACP is sponsoring Good evening.
Good evening.
So the NAACP is sponsoring a homelessness on the shelter event on Tuesday, August the 22nd. Alyssa, she will speak on what they plan to do with the funds, the county. So we invite you all to participate. It will be at 1400 West Bank Street, which is around the corner. So that's Tuesday, August the 22nd at 6 p.m. We'll sponsor a panel discussion, community conversation on homelessness in our shelter community.
Thank you, President. How many of you pay way too damn much for your rent or your mortgage? That's right. And I feel you. If I lost my job today, I would not be able to pay the rent. And in Durham, where I live, it's crazy. It's crazy as hell. We have a chance. We got two folks here that I'm going to come to at the end, but we're going to give a chance for one more speaker before we start to close out for the evening. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel Salo. I'm the organizing manager with Indivisible. I cover North and South Carolina, and I couldn't make it to the one in Met Hill, so I drove up from Charlotte to be with y'all tonight. It's awesome. I want to answer this one question. What do we want the future of North Carolina to look like? And it looks like this room to me. I see multi-generation, multi-race, multi-genders. I love what I hear when everyone is speaking up and saying their piece and what is motivating you to get more active and get more engaged. And so this is what North Carolina needs to look more like.
Thank you, Rachel. All right. Were you wanting to speak? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. And folks, if we're getting to the final few minutes, if you've got 1 minute, that's okay.
This is very short. Pastor Smith mentioned going to county commission meetings. Those are the first Monday of the month at 3, the third Monday of the month at 6. Board of Education, take a book. They're not dry. Second and fourth Mondays at 4:30. So just keep that in mind. Also, watch for a Rowan Salisbury Association of Educators ad in your playbills for Lee Street Theater and for the Salisbury Symphony. Besides, we're going to just start advertising for public schools and talking about the strengths of public schools. If people aren't paying attention, we'll go to them. So if you can think of anything creative like that, where you can get people to listen, please do. Write letters, go to the meetings.
The county commission meets at 130 West Innes. It's in the big building. A long time ago, it was a post office. The big building right across from the Salisbury Post, right across the street from St. John's Church, right across the street from the big park. 130 West Innes. And which Mondays do they meet? Let's hear it from you.
First and third.
And the first one is at what time?
3.
And the second one?
6.
Very good. I will look for you there.
Moms of Liberty area, yes.
Thank you. I hope you know, Pastor Smith.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
you want to speak?
No, you're good.
So first and third Tuesday is Salisbury City Council. First and third Tuesday at 6 o'clock. If you want to sign to speak up at public comments, unless to mention the homeless issue, please come and speak. The city has been trying to address that issue, and so you have opportunity to come and learn and speak your mind about it. Please do. Please come. Please show up. You're welcome.
And I'll be sure to send that information and follow-up email to all of y'all as well, so that you'll have it in written form. And we know that the state legislature could do a whole hell of a lot more to ease the problem we have with housing and with homelessness in the state. So, how many of y'all want a new North Carolina? I want to hear you say it. How many of you want a new North Carolina? You do, and we do. And what does the future, as my friend Rachel said, what does the future of North Carolina look like? Looks like us. Say it after me. What does the future of North Carolina look like? What does the future of North Carolina look like? It looks like everybody in this room. I know that we feel like our representatives in the General Assembly don't care about us, and many of them don't. Just keep it real. But I want you to take a look around this room, because I know every single person in this room, even if you don't know each other, care about each other. You would not be here on a Thursday night with the precious free time you have if you didn't care about everybody who was in this room. And I know, because of yesterday, and the bills that were passed, that it looks as dire in North Carolina as it has any time in the last 10 or 15 years at least. But part of what we are doing here and doing these town halls with you is because the 2023 elections, when do they start? Tonight. 2024, when does it start, Pastor Smith? It starts right now. 2026. Now. Say it with me. When did these elections start? Right now. They start right now. And more importantly, the opportunity to take care of our community, to show up to a conversation about homelessness in our community, when does that start? It starts right now. So I know it seems like we are maybe small in this room when we're in Rowan County, but I promise you, you are part of hundreds of other people, thousands of other people across this state that also want a new North Carolina. No matter what they do in the legislature, no matter the maps, the voting maps that they pass, we're not only going to show up here in Salisbury, here in Raleigh in a couple months to bring your words directly to lawmakers' offices, but we're going to break the damn gerrymander, and we're going to vote for pro-democracy candidates and people who give a damn about us. Is that right? Yeah. That's right. So I want to thank you for being here tonight, and I want to remind you that you have a bunch of cards with you. Sailor Jones has got the gray magic box of mystery. Please drop those in there if you want to, and we will be sending you an email with the next steps from this, how to get plugged into the organizations, and especially how to get plugged in locally with the many groups that are here tonight. Now, Sailor, I think you want a photo?
I do want a photo.
I don't know how we're going to get everyone together for a group photo.
I don't need everybody to move. Y'all see up at that screen? Who knows anybody in Rocky Mountain? There's my people. So let your people know that we're coming to Rocky Mountain next. Amen? That we're not going to stop now. You may be thinking, I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat some more tacos. This sort of thing. I want you to do that thing. Back when I first came here, Pastor Smith will remember this. Linda will remember. We talked about what social media was really about. Y'all want to know? It's an S word. Does anyone know? Shame. Shame. How many people in here know someone in Rowan County or beyond that is not here tonight? Amen?
Yeah. Amen.
I want you to make sure that every single person you know who should have been here tonight,
including these four,
knows that you are uniting in sin. And it starts when?
Now.
So I need everybody to get very beautiful in their cameras right now. I know it's hot. You look good. You look real good. Get into your phone. Take a photo. Tag it Unite and See and ask where you at. And show people that they missed the party and never to do it again. Because the party starts when? Now. It does. So I'm gonna do one quick picture, and I'm gonna tag United States, and you can share that one. But I guarantee you, the one you take up close and personal is gonna be the prettiest one. Okay. So I'm gonna take a picture from over here, and I'm gonna tag it. You can share it. I'm gonna make it easy. But take out your phones. Take a pretty picture. Well, first look at me. First look at me. Raise your hand if you're sure. Okay.
I'm sure.
It's very hot in here. Anybody who's old enough, raise your hand. I need big smiles. 1, 2, 3, sexy. Okay. Take out your phone. Take out your phone. It's going to be real easy. I'm going to stand
Sailor's going to make you take out your phone. He won't let you leave until you do it.
Got it.
Tag yourself. Let your friends know. Because what is social media about?
Shame.
Shame. Shame on
That was another S word.
Smith will say because of the air conditioning, it was the hottest party in Rowan.
And before you go, because we started off collectively, I want us to end collectively. When I say fired up, you say ready to go, okay? Fire.